Hey everyone, at Dawn here again, and I'm back, and this time with a new format. Now, every Fridays I'm going to be coming at you before Crystal Lake Fridays with a weekly wrap-up on the week in horror news. Anything that's developing, anything that's brewing, any rumors, all the insight. I will talk about every article I can find that not only would interest me, but would interest other people in the horror fan base in terms of the genre and the movies. So, let's start off right on the top with one of my favorite recent in the last decade horror franchises that's developing. It started out as one movie, and that's Wolf Cop. I think it was 2012. Second one was just a couple years back. I want to say 2017, if not 2018. That was another Wolf Cop. And now, thanks to this article that was written on June 18th by Nick Bond, coming to us from the Dark Universe Horror DB, that Lowell Dean, hopeful for a third Wolf Cop movie at some point. Please let this happen, because if you haven't seen the first two Wolf Cop movies and you're a horror fan, get out there and watch them, because they are both great. They're both made in Canada. They're both filmed in Saskatchewan by people from the community. Lowell Dean, I believe, is also from Saskatchewan or from that area. The prairies, that is, in Canada. I'm in Canada as well, but I'm in Ontario, more of the central part, central south, more southern part. But let's get into the article. He's hopeful a third Wolf Cop movie will be made at some point. So there's Wolf Cop right there. There's enough for any horror movie, if you haven't seen this yet, to check out this movie franchise. Those practical effects, that makeup, all that work right there. Look at the gore on his talons, like his fingers or claws. Sorry, he's a wolf cop. He's a werewolf cop. What else do you need to know? If you haven't seen this movie, get out there and see it. If you like horror, I recommend it. I highly recommend the first one. Second one is pretty good. Not quite as good as the first, but the second one also has Kevin Smith in it. And when I first heard about that, I thought he was going to be like producing, writing, directing. No, he was just in it. He didn't even get paid. He was such a fan of the first Wolf Cop movie. He just wanted to appear in the second one. He was willing just to go in the second one as a fan. He plays a character in the movie, and it's amazing. Anyway, let's get into the article. It's been around 2 years since the last Wolf Cop movie. There you go, 2018, another Wolf Cop. 2017, 2018, another Wolf Cop made its debut. Lowell Dean, director of the beloved horror comedy Werewolf series, is hoping to make a third one at some point in the future. Another Wolf Cop followed, alcoholic werewolf cop Lou Garou, which is a play on the word werewolf, because it's loup, like wolf, in French, L-O-U-P, French, loup for wolf, and Garou, I think it means loosely translated to were, so it's really werewolf. He plays an alcoholic werewolf called Werewolf. Springs into action when an eccentric businessman with evil intentions seduces Woodhaven's residents with a new brewery and hockey team in this outrageous horror comedy sequel. So that's the second one. Dean took to his official Twitter account to answer a fan's question regarding a third Wolf Cop movie using #trilogy and commenting with, "I'm hopeful at some point!" You can check out the tweet below. So right here, that's the director of the movie, the creator of the franchise, Lowell Dean. Thanks, Joker's baby daddy. We had some fun making them too. No immediate plans for a third, but I'm hopeful at some point. #trilogy. Please, because he was tweeted at by M. Mars, Joker's baby daddy. I love at Wolf Cop the movie and the sequel. When are they going to make a third one? Looking at you at Lolo Films. Please let this happen. I'm going to start following everything on Twitter that I can. I'm going to keep my ear to the ground. I'm going to watch this story. I'm going to follow it as it develops, because I've decided with this new format that I'm going to do, I'm going to talk a lot more horror, because that's where my real passion lies. I love sci-fi, and I love our weekly DLC show on Sundays. Talking about franchises we like and not so like anymore. we're not so much in favor anymore. But my real passion has always been and will always be with the horror genre. And that's what I'm going to bring to you. That's what I'm going to bring to you, my viewers, because it's what interests me, and I hope you find it interesting too. So that's it for this article. Let's get on to the next one. All right, on to the next article. The next article comes to us from BloodyDisgusting.com, and it's about Paramount and Blumhouse are apparently developing a new Paranormal Activity movie. Now, this would be a movie franchise I'm not very familiar with. I've seen the first two. I'm not a huge fan of the series, but like I said, I'm going to cover all things horror on this show. Not just things I like, but other things that people might be interested in. So let's get into it. This is written by John Squires, and it was published on June 19th, 2019. So there's a picture from Paranormal Activity. We haven't gotten a new Paranormal Activity movie since we were taken into the ghost dimension back in 2015. But we've learned today that a new film is in the works now, or is now in the works. Deadline, so this is quoting a Deadline article, reports out of Cine Europe that Paramount and Blumhouse are reteaming to bring the found footage franchise back to life. Jim Giannopoulos, Paramount Studios chairman and CEO, announced, "We are partnering with Uber horror producer Jason Blum to bring a new installment of Paranormal Activity. At this time, the 7th installment in the series has no title or details." Like I said, I've seen the first two. I'm not even familiar with this Ghost Dimension film, whichever one that was. I guess it would have been number 6. So everyone in the chat, in the comments section, let me know what this movie is. Let me know more about Paranormal Activity. I'm not too familiar with it. Help me help you. Let me learn. Back in 2015, The Ghost Dimension was said to be the final installment of the franchise, but as we all know, final installment of horror franchises tend to be anything but. Isn't that the truth, John Squires? Isn't that the truth? So there you go. A new Paranormal Activity movie on the way, courtesy of Paramount and Blumhouse. And thank you, Bloody Disgusting, for the article. Let's get on to our next one. Here we go with the next one. Courtesy again of BloodyDisgusting.com. Tobe Hooper almost directed a bonkers Spider-Man body horror film. And again, this is brought to us by John Squires, published on June 18th, 2019. So there's a picture of Spidey. I think that's from Spider-Man 2. He's fighting Doc Ock on top of the L train. Over on Digital Spy, writer Sam Ashurst wrote up a fascinating article about the Spider-Man movies that almost got off the ground when Canon Films got their hand on the Marvel property back in the mid-1980s. Oh, it's the Canon times. That would explain why Tobe Hooper was involved in the 80s, long before Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy and the subsequent MCU movies did proper justice to the iconic web-slinging comic book character. One of those unmade projects, as you may have heard over the years, was to be helmed by Texas Chainsaw Massacre director Tobe Hooper, who was at the time working on Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. Great horror movie. If you haven't seen TCM 2, check it out. The first 3 are decent. After that, don't worry about it. The Next Generation and the Michael Bay remakes, avoid at all costs. But if you like them, more power to you. I don't enjoy them. But anyways, on with the article. Canon went after Hooper to direct a bizarre take on Spider-Man that's the Outer Limits creator Leslie Stevens was commissioned to write by the studio. Ashurst explains in the aforementioned Digital Spy article, in this new version, instead of being bitten by a radioactive spider, Parker was deliberately bombarded with radiation by a corporate scientist named Dr. Zork, who transforms the ID photographer, not student or journalist, into a giant 8-armed spider hybrid, who's so monstrous he swiftly becomes suicidal. This sounds a lot like either a Tobe Hooper movie or something that would come out of canon from the 80s. This man-spider is encouraged to lead the scientist race of mutants, shades of the island of Dr. Moreau, but refuses and fights the creations instead. Well, that is interesting. It would seem that canon had completely misunderstood the origin story of Spider-Man, believing that the character to be a horrifying man-spider than a superhero. Oops. Oh, canon. Canon's take on Spider-Man was ultimately rejected by Stan Lee himself. Thank you, Stan. R.I.P., but thank you very much, because that sounds like a train wreck. Kind of interesting. Make a movie that's not related to Spider-Man, a horror movie, and I'll watch that. Somewhere where someone's tested on, becomes a giant spider that kills other people or fights other creatures. A sci-fi horror film like that, sign me up. Just not by canon and not related to Spider-Man. Canon's take on Spider-Man was ultimately rejected, and they went back to the drawing board. What came next? Head over to Digital Spy to read the full piece. So we're not going to go there. So that is it. Tobe Hooper almost got his hands into the Spider-Man franchise, courtesy of Canon in the 80s. That would have been interesting, to say the least. I don't think it would have turned out well. It's probably for the best, especially since Canon wouldn't have been involved in Most of their movies were train wrecks, low-budget train wrecks. Sorry about that. My dog's in the background. I should really retake that, but I want this to be fresh, and I want this to be legit and authentic. So there you go. There's our third article. Tobe Hooper almost directed a bonkers Spider-Man body horror film. Now, let me know if you would have wanted to see that. I'm okay with it, but like I said, give me another horror sci-fi franchise that has that same idea, someone being tested on or being created into a spider monster, and they either prey on humans or attack other creatures in a universe built with the same type of giant monsters. Sign me up any day, any day, any day. All right, let's get on with the next article. All right, time for our last article of the week. And for this one, wow, just wow. You can already see it on your screen. I can already see it in front of me. I just can't. But let's get into it. This one again is brought to us by Dark Universe Horror, a database. It's written by Nick Bond again, published on June 19th, 2019. Bret Hart and Corey Feldman team for horror anthology Tales from the Dead Zone. So there we go. We have former WWE or WWF wrestler Hall of Famer Bret the Hitman Hart teaming up with Corey Feldman to do an anthology horror series called Tales from the Dead Zone. Just let that sink in for a minute, everyone. Just for a second. Okay, let's move on. Into the article. WWE Hall of Famer, wrestling superstar Bret the Hitman Hart makes his feature film debut in director Barry Gillis's horror anthology flick Tales from the Dead Zone. Also starring Corey Feldman from The Goonies, The Lost Boys, Stand By Me, and Dakota House. Indigenous. This is a horror article, and they did not mention Friday the 13th. He was the original Tommy Jarvis. Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter. He was Tommy Jarvis. He was also in it a bit part for Part 5, just at the beginning, because his career was finally really starting to take off at that time. Gremlins blew up, so they got him back for one little scene. It was actually filmed in his backyard, if I recall correctly. The little thing they did in the cemetery when he's dreaming about going to wake up Jason, or he's watching people wake up Jason. Anyways, getting derailed. Let's get back to the article, because when I talk horror, I get derailed easily. I love it. I love talking about it. Let's get on with it. Tales from the Dead Zone is a throwback to gems like Creepshow, Tales from the Crypt, and Pulp Fiction. You can check out the official trailer below along with stills and poster artwork. So there's the link to the trailer. We're not going to show that because I don't want to get copyrighted, but the synopsis is a medical examiner conducting autopsies on victims of a horrible car crash who imagines how they may have lived their lives. The anthology links 4 terrifying stories together. So it's like a Creepshow, Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side. That same sort of idea. I have to admit it, I'm actually kind of intrigued. This has Trainwreck written all over it. These two, like these terrible CG birds in the back. I don't know why he's holding a gun. He's probably a cop. He looks like he's a vampire to begin with, or a zombie, half corpse. So I don't know what to expect. We've got like Stonehenge in the back. I some pseudo Stonehenge in the back. I don't know, but I'm kind of intrigued, not only for the horror aspect, but also for the train wreck possibility aspect. So this is another one. Everyone. I'm definitely going to be following closely, updating regularly. Everything I hear about this show, keep my ear to the ground. I will keep you up to date as these Fridays show go on in regards to the horror update show, prelude to Crystal Lake Fridays. So Tales from the Dead Zone is slated for release in 2020. Check out the film's website for more. And there's some stills of Bret the Hitman Hart. He is being held under gun and camera. Looks like a 1970s camera. Not sure. Corey Feldman being Corey Feldman? Are we channeling our inner guy from The Walking Dead? Okay. And there's the poster again. Oh my God. So much CG. So much just Photoshop. So much Photoshop. Tales from the Dead Zone. The nightmare has just begun. And that is it. All right. Well, we've reached the end of this week's video in regards to the horror updates. Like I said, this is going to be a weekly feature here on my channel, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this format. If you think it's going to fly, how you think I can improve it. I'm open to feedback, and the most important thing is I want to make it enjoyable for you, the viewers. I love this stuff. I could talk horror all night long. I could talk this show. I could watch this show and talk it all night long. I guarantee you this show is probably going to be a train wreck, but I also double guarantee you I will find something redeemable in this show and something I will enjoy. I can almost guarantee it because horror is my niche. It's my wheelhouse. It's my go-to. So that's what I'm going to bring you every Friday night. Before we do Crystal Lake Fridays, you're going to see these videos drop. So thank you very much for watching. And while you're here, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and like I said, comment below. I'm at Dawn. I'll be back with more videos, more horror updates every Friday, but in the meantime, join me on Fridays for Crystal Lake Fridays, Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern, Dawn's DLC, Magic Mondays, 8 to 8:30, where I play Magic the Gathering. And Dawn's DLC is where I get together with two friends and we just talk about things that we like and don't really like in pop culture and media. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.